Father Giovetta watches her closely. Adela lifts the heavy slat of steel and removes hundreds of worms from an oven carved in the hillside. Then she prepares for her journey to the mill. She wipes the dust from her dress, rearranges the wooden hair clip, practices what many women do to survive, an alluring smile. Several women of her town work together feeding the silkworms every 2 or 3 hours, night and day, for 4 to 5 weeks with fresh mulberry leaves. At the end of that time, the silkworm is fully grown and stops eating. It is now ready to spin its outer wrapping, a cocoon. Adela used to feed the worms mulberry leaves. Last year, when she was 15, she was furious with the mill owners who paid the middlemen transporters but stopped paying the women. They were repeatedly told they would be paid soon. It outraged her that the women were so complacent and continued their work for hours each day. Adela was born in Cassano Canavesi, in a small town at the foothills of the Alps in the Piedmonte region. She was never satisfied. She was always trying to see the vast expanse of their lives, not the day-to-day survival. Why no schools after 3rd grade, no voting, no money, no dreams? How can primarily fig farmers survive one bad season after another? She thought the silkworms were spinning wonderful dreams. The woman put twigs near the silkworms, which the worms wind around and around the twig held together by gum, which the worm also gives off. After 3 days, the cocoon is completed. To prevent the worm changing into a moth and breaking out of the cocoon, thereby bursting its long silk thread, the cocoon is put into the oven. Heat kills the worms, thus the oven carved in the hillside. The women unwind the long silk threads, which are then brought to a textile mill in a town about 10 miles away to be manufactured into silk cloth. Something started to happen in Adela's mind. Why were the women prevented from any part of this manufacturing except for the feeding of worms? Why were their wages held? She thought she would just bring the worms to the mill herself and negotiate with the mill owners. Adela met Lorenzo. He was loud, charming, conniving, and about 25 years old. Lorenzo worked at the mill doing odd jobs. Adela would use him to clear the way. Adela met Stefano. He was soft-spoken, weak of character, and about Lorenzo's age. Stefano was a chef on a ship and would spend most of each year making the trek to Ellis Island and back. Adela would use him for an escape, although she did not know it at the time. Could Adela use Father Giovetta? In Adela's defense, for the greater good, for justice. While not a stalwart for fairness, he did appreciate Adela's fine fairness and agreed to assist her. Together, they started the first unionized workers in the region. The cog needs the railway, and the women were an essential part of the railway. Adela and Lorenzo went into partnership with Adela, controlling most aspects of the now unionized silkworm process. Lorenzo was needed to sign the contract since women were not legally recognized. Lorenzo courted her by trying to hold her close. She did only what she needed to do to keep the business successful and the process just. It was a difficult dance. The men of the town were initially hateful, seeing a woman act like a man. Not surprisingly, any woman not involved in the silkworm process spat on her. Soon a powerful cooperative was formed throughout the Piedmonte region, due largely to Adela's voice. The small homes in Cassano Canavesi were installing indoor plumbing, and the farmers were able to buy equipment for their farms. The silkworm and textile industry grew in northern Italy, and unionized workers received good wages. Families no longer went hungry. Adela married Stefano on a day in February 1917. That why part of Adela's history is unclear, but those are the facts taken from Saint Stefano in Elisabetta, where every birth, marriage, and death is recorded in the church since 1740. I know, I was there and used my iPhone to take photos of all the certificates of family existence. He was her ticket out, it was often said. Stefano left on his ship a month later. He never returned to Italy. In 1919, holding Father Giovetti's 11-month-old son, she was forced to take up the journey to America to be reunited with her husband. The town has an old small plaque in the vestibule of the St. Stefano in Elisabetta Church. The English translation, Adela Carolina Brunero, born 1900, Cassano Canavesi, protector of workers' rights. Who was responsible for the placement of that plaque? Adela worked long hours until 80 years of age scrubbing toilets. She would often listen with such quiet intensity. Her eyes told me her sense of justice was keen, but her voice was silent, always silent. I sometimes scrubbed toilets alongside of her, looking for my voice. Once she grabbed me by my hand and took me outside where it was snowing. She was dressed in her daily uniform of black. She smiled with delight as she threw a snowball, but she never uttered a word.